Welcome to our special Let's Talk About series. I will tell you a little more about this series as we go on, but I'm thrilled to welcome in the newslaundry studio today two great scholars of our time, talking about another great person, not of our time, but way before, Ashoka the Great. But right now, I'd like to welcome Professor Patrick Olivelle. Is that how you pronounce it? I've got to pronounce
Olivelle. Right.
Olivelle. Mm-hmm. And Ramachandra Guha. All of you have seen him on Newslaundry in the past. And we're going to be talking about a book that has been authored by Professor Patrick Olivelle called Ashoka, Portrait of a Philosopher King. Now, this is part of a series called Indian Lives that is being curated, overseen by Ram Guha, one of the greatest scholars of our time. We will talk a little bit about what is to come in this series and then get straight into this book. So let me come to you first, Ram.
This is a book called Remarkable, Unusual, Interesting, Controversial Individuals, through whose lives we can illuminate our larger history. And essentially, biography is a medium, Abhinandan, which attracts the general reader. So for example, the second book, the series, we'll of course talk at great length about Patrick's wonderful book, but the second book is a biography of Sheikh Abdullah. Now, if someone writes a book called The Colonial and Post-Colonial Political and Social and Economic History of Kashmir, which is kind of a typical academic title.
Right.
Some specialists read it. Sheikh Abdullah, the caged lion of Kashmir, through which, of course, you know about economics and politics and culture and society. So I wanted the finest scholars to use their research and their learning to write about a controversial exemplary individual.
And this idea evolved from
through my own experience as a scholar who's written biographies, who's faced pushback from my peers for writing biographies, because scholars are not supposed to just elevate one individual above larger social processes. So it came from a lifetime of experience of writing. And I thought this is a time where we have outstanding scholars, both distinguished senior scholars like Patrick, more emerging scholars. And I did not want... so there's some people who are excluded from this series, some figures. So there will be no Nehru, no Gandhi, no Tagore, no Bose, no Savarkar. There may be Ambedkar, just about, and we can talk about that, because Ambedkar is...
we've had a bunch of books on Savarkar in the last 2 years. Yeah.
So, and Bose and Nehru, of course, and Gandhi.
Have you already decided all the names that are going to be there, or you're still in the process
But there are about 20 people I have already commissioned to write on Sheikh Abdullah, Kamla Devi, Kasturba, the 18th century diarist Anandram Mukhlis, who's been written about by the brilliant Mughal historian Abhishek Kekar, the Buddha. So a variety of people from across centuries.
Any chance you're still taking recommendations?
I will be happy. I will be happy to entertain them and judge them on their merits.
Today, while we record this, it is the death anniversary of one of my favorite heroes, Guru Gobind Singh. And Guru Gobind Singh's life is full of folklore, and his body was never found. He just rode into the forest, kind of thing. So, if at any point you find a scholar, that would be one that I'd love to read.
I've asked someone to write either on Guru Nanak. I approached someone, and they didn't agree. I would love one of these two Sikh gurus. Now, of course, there's a question. The question is of scholarship versus myth and legend.
But with religion, it gets a bit difficult of how people take it. Although with the Buddha, you won't have that problem.
No, because it's so far distant. But with Shivaji, I would have that problem.
Shivaji would have that.
For sure, I would have that problem, right. So I asked a scholar I respect, who's a scholar of Sikh and Punjabi history, to write on Guru Nanak, and he said it didn't fit his scheme at the moment. But I would like to have one of the gurus, either Guru Nanak or Guru Gobind, but it has to be the right person who's willing to, shall we say, in a scholarly way, put forward his or her arguments, regardless of what the repercussions.
And also take the risk, right? Yeah. So, Professor Olivelle, what Ram just spoke about, merging scholarly work with it being readable and not, as he so eloquently put it, in that very, very academic way. How much of a challenge was that for you? Because you have had an extremely accomplished career as an academic. You're Professor Emeritus at University of Texas. Was it a challenge? Did you just let the words flow and it kind of wrote itself? how does it work to write something that is so academically hefty, yet the idea is a regular person should be able to consume it?
Yeah, there are actually 2 or 3 problems that I thought of at the beginning when Ram so generously asked me to write. One was, of course, just that. How do you make a complicated argument simple but yet accurate? And secondly, how do you write a biography? I had never written a biography, so it's a new genre for me. And that's what I told him. I told Ram that you may have to hold my hand as I proceed, and he did actually. He read the whole early first draft, and I think what came out finally was a much improved version of the original. In my career, as I'm doing my own writing, academic writing, I've tried my best to be as clear as possible. And many people comment on that what I write there's an argument that can be followed. There are sentences that are short and hopefully, as Ram says, elegant prose, and that has its own merit. I think I'm more French than German in terms of prose, the flair, the ability to reach the audience, as opposed to having one sentence go into a paragraph. You see, and that I have tried to practice that art. And I think I've been a little successful at that, even in other smaller pieces, etc. So those were the difficulties of trying to write a biography. And the third difficulty, of course, is that we are limited by the data we have. We have very limited amount of data on Ashoka, and most of them, bulk of it, comes from Ashoka's own writing. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, I was telling yesterday at the book launch, the fear is, the danger is that in writing a biography based on his own writings, it can become an autobiography. You let the subject define himself rather than a biographer trying to interpret this person. So I've tried my best to read closely, read into it, read between the lines, find out what is not there, the silences that are important, I think. I'm also a believer in what people don't say, and that becomes revealing then also. So there are ways of compensating for it, but not fully. So ultimately, I think what is found in the book is how Ashoka as a person, complex, polychromatic, I would say, emerges from his own writings as you read it carefully, as you read it closely, reading between the lines and behind the lines.
And you have said that he fancied himself as a bit of a writer. You assume by seeing.
Yes, I think so. Objectively, you can see that he starts with a theme, and then you can see how it is. The thread goes through, and it concludes with a return to that theme. So it's a very interesting dialogue. For example, there's one thing where you can everywhere in my territory. Then he names all these things. Then he comes back to the original word, sarvatra, everywhere. So you find everywhere and everywhere, which is interesting. And these are also signatures of oral composition that you can make that done. So it's I think he fancied himself in the 14th Rock Edict, which is a sort of a coda, a conclusion to his anthology of the 13 Rock Edicts. He says that he finds some of his writings charming. The word is in Madhurya, which is sweet.
Right.
And then actually, when you go to later Indian theories of aesthetics, one of the qualities of writing is Madhurya. Is that sweetness.
Right. That is there. One general question, and then we'll get into Ashoka specifically. You've written over 30 books, and you are a decorated writer. Typically, when you choose a subject, a theme, when you approach a book, what is it, and how was it different from Ram coming to you and saying, this is a character, would you write
Yeah.
about him?
As I said yesterday too, sometimes accidents or strokes of luck, serendipity, as is said, word coming from Sri Lanka after all. Serendip is Sri Lanka.
Is that right? I didn't
Yes,
know that. Okay.
Yes. So serendipity is my has defined my life. My most successful book until now, hopefully this will be better,
It will be.
was the translation of the major Upanishads for the Oxford World's Classics series, which has sold, I don't know, certainly over 100,000 books now. And there, I also got a letter from the editor of Oxford series saying, would you translate the Upanishads? And my first reaction was no, because, this is my forte was not the Upanishads. And I said, then she insisted, and I said, okay, give me the Christmas break, and I'll try to translate a bit and see how it goes. And it went well. So the rest is history. So that, and then all of a sudden I get an email from Ram asking me to do this. My first reaction was, in my own mind, no. But then this was more tempting because I had worked on Ashoka for at least 20 years. So I knew the subject. I had organized 2 major conferences on Ashoka, one here in Delhi actually. So I knew the field, I knew him, and I was disappointed with some of the books that were available about Ashoka because they didn't treat his own words seriously enough and didn't make it the center of the book. So I thought maybe that's something I could bring new to this discussion. Ashoka has been worked over, by so many. So that was, then I thought, okay, I could try that. And then gradually as I was working, it became an organizing principle that there could be 4 parts to this book and 4 defining elements of Ashoka's personality.
The king, the philosopher, the Buddhist.
Buddhist and the ecumenist. Those are the 4 things that I... So that became for me sort of heuristically at least an organizing principle, how to penetrate
Structure the
this.
book.
Yeah,
Sure.
structure. Yeah.
So this entire podcast will be available from here on audio only. So do check it out, and hopefully we will have many such conversations on this series. But that's it for the video section. Plug in and listen to the entire audio conversation on this. Journalism at News Laundry is powered by the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Visit newslaundry.com/subscription and pick a payment plan of your choice. Pay to keep news free and independent. Your future, and indeed the future of democracy, depends on it.